Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL's Jocks and Pigskins on the Atlanta Sports Unlimited channel with Tom Pollen, Chris Smitherman behind the scenes. We also have, I can't tell your cats apart. Which cat is this?
Zozo.
What? Oh, Zozo.
Right.
Chris knows.
That's Zozo, right, Tom?
Yeah.
See, I got it. Can you hear Tom?
Why are we getting? Yep.
You good, Tom?
You getting good? You okay, Tom?
Why are we getting this double feedback?
I don't have any double feedback on my end.
Yeah,
You did?
I don't either.
Do you have two like speakers on, or
No.
do you want to leave and come back?
Yeah. Let me leave and come back.
Okay.
All right. We'll get Tom back momentarily. I'm Dave Holcomb. This is a good time to say the sponsor of our show. We've got Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gives you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So some free money for you and a great way to get started on Prize Picks. If you haven't already, I mean, it's middle of the season. You should already be on Prize Picks. But if you're not, you can sign up today. It's not too late to get started. And when you do, use our promo code, and that supports the show, and that will get you started with some free money in the app. I think we've got Tom back now.
Yeah. Let's
Tom,
hope
you there?
this. Let's hope this works a lot better than. All right. I'm not hearing any feedback from me again, so it appears that we have this going well.
And I don't hear any, so I think we're good, Tom. You are a green light.
All right. That sounds good. Oh man, that was rough. I couldn't tell who was talking.
Yeah, so it was just like an echo. That's what you were getting?
Yeah, I was getting an echo. It was about a 4 or 5 second delay. So I don't know what went on. I didn't have my other speaker on, so I don't know what was happening. But yeah. Zozo's here. She's here for the show, and she'll have her picks later on, and Zozo and Nostradamus will have our picks, but let's get into the show.
Yeah.
Talk about
A lot to talk about. Yeah. So the Falcons are making a quarterback change. It's a change that a lot of fans have been calling for a while. And I think you and I have both been saying, try to be patient. Desmond Ritter, we need a bigger sample size from him. And but 8 games now into the season, the Falcons are 4-4. Very much in the thick of things, though, at 4-4 in first place of the NFC South. And this is the time Arthur Smith thinks is best to make a quarterback change. And I guess the first thing we maybe should talk about, Tom, is Arthur Smith tried to play it off like this is just a 1-week thing. Do you buy into any of the idea of Taylor Heineke may only start for 1 game?
No. Not a bit. Arthur Smith is blowing smoke up everybody's, rear ends again.
Yeah.
And I just like, don't lie to us. Fans are not stupid. All right. Ritter was ready to go back into the game against, last week against Tennessee.
Well, yeah. And I think if you want to say Smith is lying, that's when the lying started. He did say that Ritter was cleared, but he also said that Ritter wasn't benched for performance reasons.
Right.
So that didn't really gel at all.
No.
Then why didn't he go back into the game? It was the follow-up question.
Yes, it doesn't do it. It doesn't work. And then naming Heineke the starter later in the week, well, you're just telling us, it's performance-based.
Yeah.
Don't lie to me. And don't lie to your fans. Because you're going to lose support, big-time support that way. If this thing doesn't turn around, you're going to have the fans turning on you because you lied to them. Be straight up with your fans, and they'll respect you more for it. They may criticize you, but they'll respect you more for it.
Yeah.
I don't like this playing around that Arthur Smith is doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And undoubtedly, some fans probably won't care. There's such a big anti-media part of our country now where I think people look at it as, well, Arthur Smith didn't lie to me. Arthur Smith lied to the media. He lied to the reporter that asked the question. He didn't lie to me. So
but the problem is the reporter is there to get the answer
no, I mean,
from the fans because the fans aren't in that room.
I absolutely agree with you. I'm just saying that I don't think everyone will have your feelings about Smith lying to them. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree. You're right. But I'm an old timer. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be lied to as a fan or a member of the media. No one wants to be lied to.
No one wants to be lied to.
And I don't like using that word because that's an easy way to get in trouble as a broadcaster, accusing someone of lying. But I mean, it's hard not to see what Smith did this week as that. So
exactly.
At the very least, he was misleading, at best.
Well, I suppose if you want to be, put at least keep it from being such a negative spin, you could use the word misleading. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe it's quite because he said Ritter is our starter in Sunday's post-game press conference. It's possible at the time that he hadn't made up his mind yet, but it was without a doubt he did bench Ritter during the game for performance reasons. It wasn't
and not for no reason. I mean, you cannot keep turning the ball over like Ritter's been turning the ball over.
Yeah,
it's getting ridiculous.
And it wasn't even the turnovers on Sunday; it was the 5 sacks in the first half.
Yeah, he was running for his life. I mean, the pass protection was terrible. Yeah. And the final 5 drives in the first half all started on the 7, the 13, the 12, and the 8-yard line. All right, his special teams did not do him any favors. Hughes did not do him any favors as far as where he was catching those punts. Was Keith Smart returned a kickoff that would have ended up rolling into the end zone, rolling out of the end zone, and caught it and tried to return it. It's just, stupid plays by the special teams. Yeah, if you're in the shadow of your own goalpost, it's tough to be a good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true. We've got some comments rolling in already. Keep them coming, guys. New QB for the Falcons, new speakers for Tom, says Gary.
Maggie, good to see you.
Maggie is here. Great to see you. Good afternoon to you. And so you agree that it is time, regardless of how Arthur Smith presented the quarterback change. You seem to be flipping on that. You're done with Desmond Ritter.
I'm not done with him. But my problem with Ritter is there are some accuracy issues. If Ritter is throwing the ball on a straight line, if he's throwing darts, he's accurate. All right. He will not miss. He threw a ball into Drake London that maybe if it had gotten there a quarter of a second later, the defender would have made a play on the ball. But because Ritter has so much juice on that ball, it got to London and they got a gain out of it. Now that touchdown late in the game to Scotty Miller, Ritter cannot throw that ball. That is not a ball Ritter can throw. He cannot put air under the ball and be accurate. And that's his big problem. As long as he can get it to you on a line, he's good. But I looked up some things earlier as far as some of the stats and some of the results from some of his play. And he's 18th in completions, 16th in attempts.
Yeah.
So does okay, but there's some decent name quarterbacks underneath him on that list.
There's some attempts.
Yeah. But the problem is, and he's 15th in yards. So not great, but again, not the worst in the league. And there are some decent names under him in the league. Problem is, he's 27th in touchdowns, 21st in passer rating, 24th in quarterback rating, and 19th in net yards per attempt. That's not going to get it done.
Well, I'm going to go back to the sacks is the big problem with that last one. The net yards per pass attempt takes into account sacks. And if he's not turning the ball over, he's getting sacked. And you can say what you want about the pass protection not being good. I think that's true. But, it's part of why Smith is going to Heineke, at least for one game, is the Vikings lead the league in blitz percentage.
Yes, they do.
Love blitzing.
By a large percentage, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they blitz on more than half of their defensive downs.
Yes, they do.
52.7%. And if you want to buy into maybe this is only a 1 week thing, that's what you point to as I don't want Ritter going up against the Vikings defense that blitzes almost 10% more than anybody else in the league.
Yep, that's right. That's good. I hadn't really considered that. That's a good point, Dave. I hadn't considered that, but you're right. There's going to be a lot of pressure this week, and Heineke at least has experience handling that pressure.
Yeah,
and them Ritter.
Now, I don't buy that if Heineke does well against this blitz and the Falcons win this game, that he's going to go back to Ritter next week. I don't.
Oh no.
I think if Heineke plays well, it's going to be Heineke going forward until otherwise, really, until Heineke, I mean, hopefully it's not a situation where Heineke plays so badly they're thinking about going back to Ritter. But I think this is Heineke's opening now to take this team to the playoffs.
It is. However, if you look at Heineke as 2 years as starter in Washington, we know what we're getting in Taylor Heineke. And he took over from Ryan Fitzpatrick in game one, Fitzmagic, in 2021. It was really very streaky.
Yeah.
Lost 4 straight, won 4 straight, and then lost 4 straight.
Yeah, the definition of streaky.
Yeah. Last season, taking over for Wentz in week 7, he won 5 of his first 6, brought the team to 7-5. Then after the bye week, he lost 3 games down the stretch. He played the Washington Commanders. I almost wanted to say it, but he didn't. He played the Commanders out of a playoff spot. So this is not a guy you can necessarily count on to get you to the playoffs. So don't think that things are better because Taylor Heineke is under center. He's had his problems too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a very good backup to have on your team.
Yes.
A guy that can come in and do what he did last week, almost lead you back when things look really dire. I think he's going to have some good starts. If he starts the rest of the season, I think he's going to have some really good games. He might even play really well against Minnesota. I don't know. But he's also going to have some bad moments. He wouldn't have been available if he wasn't such an inconsistent quarterback.
Right.
And that's not going to change overnight. It's not going to change on Atlanta.
Washington decided he was not the man. He was not ready to do it. Oh, here he comes. Here comes Thomas. There we go.
There he is.
No, but I think Thomas would agree with me.
He does agree.
If Heineke was the man, if Heineke had finished that playoff run, he'd still be in Washington. Sam Howell would not be their quarterback right now.
Right. Yeah.
So, but Heineke fell apart, and they decided Sam Howell was a better option.
Yeah, I mean, there have been and it's worked for some teams, like the Buccaneers signed Tom Brady and won the Super Bowl. The Rams traded for Matthew Stafford, won the Super Bowl. So I understand the love affair with trying to add a quarterback in free agency or the trade, but about 95% of the time, Tom, like those quarterbacks are available for trade or available in free agency because somebody else didn't want them, and there was a reason why. There's a reason why they're available.
But you also knew what you're getting out of Brady and Stafford. You were getting 2 established starting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You weren't getting a guy that really hasn't proven himself yet. And you're right, 99% of those guys that are going to be available haven't proven themselves yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason why I bring this up is like Russell Wilson. The Broncos thought they were getting a proven quarterback like a Matthew Stafford. I mean, the Indianapolis Colts thought they were getting a proven veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan, and just more often than not, these quarterback additions in free agency and even through a trade are just blowing up in teams' faces.
Yep, sure are. So, that's the thing. Don't count on Heineke. Now, the one thing that the Falcons have going for them is I looked at their schedule, their finishing schedule. Yeah, they got to come out of their bye week against the Saints. Saints are playing very well.
Yeah.
The Saints have found their pass game. And
we're going to talk about that in my prize picks.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about that in my prize picks too.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But
we both don't have faith in the Bears defense is what I'm getting at from that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you exactly nailed it. And even with Montez Sweat starting, this weekend for the Bears, I'm not giving them a lot of. I think they'll play better, but there are still a lot of problems on this Bears team. And we won't go into that. I mean, nobody, right. Falcons fans don't want to hear me bitching about the Bears this entire hour.
We can talk about Sweat maybe in a little bit. I was curious to hear what you have to say about. It's natural, I think, for an outside perspective to compare it to the Chase Claypool trade, and Bears don't want to do that at all. There are some major differences. I think Sweat is more of a proven player, but and Sweat is on an expiring contract, whereas Claypool wasn't last year. But trading a second-round pick for a guy on an expiring contract is for a team not going to the playoffs is an interesting strategy for sure.
Yeah, and trading a second-round pick for a guy whose contract is expiring and you don't have the framework of a contract in place with him, is a problem. Now, I hear a lot of people saying the Bears don't make that move unless they feel they can sign him.
Well, I would hope so.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah.
Because if they didn't, Ryan Poles needs to be out on his, keister.
They're giving away another second-round pick.
Yes, for nothing. For a rent-a-player when you're not even going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, when you're 2-6.
So,
and we can relate this to the Falcons actually, and talk about because Falcons fans will be interested in hearing about Sweat because one of the places that he possibly could have landed was Atlanta.
Yes,
Atlanta offered a second-round pick. Chicago's was going to be higher. Washington thought so. They accepted the Bears pick and the Bears trade package. And then Sweat addressed it on I don't know if I forget if he tweeted about it or if just what he said ended up on Twitter and somebody quoted him on Twitter, but I saw it on Twitter. And what he said basically sounded a lot like he wanted to be with the Falcons. And he's from Georgia.
He's from Georgia. Got family here.
I mean, I think you got to be scared to death if you're a Bears fan that even if you have an idea of a contract you're going to offer Sweat, that he's just not going to accept it and going to try and sign with the Atlanta Falcons next March.
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem, and that's what's in my mind. And now you could say, the Bears can franchise tag him, but do you want to pay Sweat the average of the 5 top defensive ends in the National Football League?
Bless you.
Because he's not worth that. So you're going to end up screwing yourself because you're going to end up having to pay him tag money, or you have to pay him more to make him want to stay in Chicago. This contract is going to be for more money than it would have been if Atlanta had signed him or Atlanta had traded for him.
Yeah.
So the Bears are stuck actually having to overpay Sweat
Right.
either through a multi-year contract or through the franchise tag.
Yeah.
This is a terrible situation.
The only other hope is that he comes to Chicago. He likes playing for the Bears. He likes the city, he likes where he's living, whatever. And he likes it so much in just the 2 or 3 months that he's there that he decides to stay and take market value as opposed to
right
that extra money you're talking about. But based on the Bears record at 2-6, based on the situation with their head coach on the hot seat, it sounds like it's not a good situation he's stepping into. And I don't know why a player would then sign up to stay there for a long contract unless it's for the money.
Matt Eberflus right now has the worst winning percentage of any Bears coach in franchise history. Worse than even Abe Gebron in the early 70s.
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who that is?
He went a year without winning a game, right? A whole calendar year?
A calendar year, yeah. Yeah, sure did. And he still hasn't won 2 in a row.
Yeah. We won yesterday. If we win again today, that's 2 in a row. We win again tomorrow, that's called a winning streak.
Yeah. Well,
what the Bears are looking for?
Been a long drought. Long drought. But, so, again, if they didn't have that framework for a deal in place, this has become very tough on the Bears. And, Ryan Poles has put himself in a bad position. And I know, and Chicago fans are saying, well, the Bears have plenty of salary cap space. But, you don't want to use extra salary cap space on this player that you don't have to use.
Yeah.
He's not a franchise tag player.
It just all comes back to the fact that it doesn't sound like he wants to be there.
No.
And you're trying to build a culture. You're trying to help out a coach that hasn't won 2 in a row, as you talked about. And you're going to bring in a player that's talented, but a player that doesn't really want to be there and isn't on a contract beyond, January. It was very odd, very odd. And the Falcons could really benefit from – they're not going to get him this year to help them make the playoffs in 2023, but it sounds like if he hits the market, they're going to have a great chance to sign him next year.
If he hits the market, I say Atlanta's the number 1 spot for him.
Yeah.
So, again, just not thinking ahead for Ryan Poles. Trying to fix a problem this year without thinking of the long-term effects. So that's that's what it comes down to, is you're not looking ahead. You're not looking into the future. Because you're costing your team more money.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, Ryan Poles is not in a good position here, with the Bears fandom. Because it's just, I just don't, the Bears have become a joke. It's a joke of a team.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that to you because I would be afraid you'd be mad at me. But I mean, I agree with you. So it's hard not looking at Claypool trade and then the Sweat trade and not say like, what are you doing? Just what are you? How are you trying to build this team? And they're probably going to start over with another head coach. More than likely, it's just what do you do with Justin Fields? It's a mess, absolute mess in Chicago. And let's get back to the Falcons mess.
Let's get back to the Falcons, yes.
Because I do think this is a little bit of a mess for at least their quarterback situation. I want to get to a couple comments, though. Marcel says, what's up? Hi, Marcel. Thanks for joining us today. And Todd with a strong statement against Ritter, saying that little Tommy boy here can read defense better than Desmond Ritter. And Gary agrees with Todd. I don't know. He's reading his he's got a book that he eats more than he reads, but we read it to them, and it's got 2 words on a page. My sister visited last week, and she said, "Wow, this is my kind of book." My sister, not being the biggest reader in the world, it's like, yeah, 2 words per page. I like that.
That
But
works.
reading defenses, yeah, Ritter hasn't shown that he can really do that yet in the NFL. And I know I've said this so many times, and the fans are probably tired of hearing me say this, but the reason why I think this is a mess of really the Falcons' own making, Arthur Smith, you talk about the Bears not looking towards the future, exactly what Arthur Smith did last year, continuing to start Marcus Mariota week after week, did not look beyond next week, did not look beyond the 2022 season.
Right.
And now, like, you could have determined if you're going, he's played 8 games this year. He played 4 games last year. He could have easily gotten 12 starts last season or close to it. 8, 9, maybe. Definitely should have had 8 or 9. And if he had had that many starts, maybe you determine in January, Ritter's not our guy.
Then you can make a move to get one of the 3 that were available.
Right.
You know,
Or you sign Heineken, you start him from day one. I mean, maybe, or you're more aggressive at getting somebody else in free agency as you look towards next year's draft class for quarterbacks or whatever. But the determination on Ritter could have been made at the end of last season. And at the very least, if you went with Ritter again this year, he should have had more experience gained last season, so he would have been hitting the ground running.
Right.
I still think that a lot of the problems that the Falcons are having at quarterback was set back and created by not starting Ritter earlier in the 2022 season.
Yeah, exactly. Get him his baptism of fire. Let him make his rookie mistakes. And give him an idea of what the NFL game is all about. I think he looks better, or at least he has a chance coming into this season to make something, to establish himself. And people forget, Ritter has 2 game-winning comebacks, game-winning drives this season, and fourth quarter comebacks. So he hasn't been all that terrible. He hasn't been as bad as a lot of fans want to make him out to be. But again, as I read some of the statistics, he hasn't been, a lot of what he's done hasn't given the Falcons results. They don't score touchdowns.
Yeah.
You know,
he has 4 game-winning drives, Tom, this season.
No, he only has 2. 4? Really? Let me look that up real quick.
He has 2 fourth quarter comebacks, 4
game-winning drives. Yes. 4 game-winning drives.
Leads the league. But it's such a weird stat because Kenny Pickett has a bunch of fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives, not as many as Ritter, but I think he has more fourth quarter comebacks. And then, like, the one thing Matt Ryan did well last year was the fourth quarter comebacks.
Ryan always, his entire career, I think he's like 3rd all time in fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe you. That's right. But last year, like, he would play terribly and not even play all that well in the fourth quarter either, but he would rally and the team would win those games. But if you're looking at the eye test or any other statistics, like, Matt Ryan didn't deserve to start anymore. And I think that's true with Ritter. And I don't want to say Pickett shouldn't start anymore, but Pickett's struggling as well. And the one thing he's doing well is, you know, helping the team win in the fourth quarter. It's so how much, I guess my question is, how much do we value that? How much do we put up with, you know, complete crap from your play for 3 quarters? But your team is winning and you're putting them in situations to have success late in the game. Because that only works if you're close enough, right? If the other team just blows you out because you're playing so poorly in the first half, you don't get to have a chance to have a fourth quarter.
You don't. And it's nice to have a blowout every now and then. Yeah. Well, Tampa Bay should have been a blowout.
Yeah.
Except Ritter's fumbles in the red zone.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Ritter and that fumble through the end zone that cost them 7 points. You know, Ritter, that's like he's gotten worse taking care of the ball over the last 3 games than he was when he started the season. And you cannot trend that way, especially a team that's borderline, that has to do everything right to win. And Todd has a question, and I do want to address that. What Ritter does well, again, if Ritter is throwing the ball on the line, throwing darts, using his arm, he is extremely accurate. All right. And he has the guys who can catch that kind of ball. Drake London's shown it. Kyle Pitts has shown it. One of the problems with Ritter is when he gets into the red zone, you don't have a lot more room. You don't have the room for receivers to get open as they do in the middle of the field if you're working at the 40 or 30. Suddenly the coverage has gotten tighter because you can't, you got 10 yards of end zone space.
Yeah.
Coverage has gotten tighter, and it's tougher to find that receiver where you can deliver the ball on a line and get that receiver and get that touchdown. He doesn't have touch, and that's my problem with Ritter. He can move the ball down the field. All right. He's got these stats that says that he can get the ball down the field. He does not turn those into touchdowns, does not turn those into points, and you just can't have that. So, yeah, what he does well is he finds receivers and gets the ball on the line to them. If he has to put air under the ball, he cannot hit a receiver. I think he's only hit one receiver this year where he's had to put air under the ball and get it to and get it downfield. And as I say, he cannot make that pass to Scotty Miller that Heineke made.
Yeah.
Ritter does not make that play. And that's the problem. You got to be able to make that touch pass when you're down in the red zone, when you're inside the 10, because not everybody's going to be as open as they are when you're running plays from the 40 or 30.
Yeah. Right.
So that's the issue that's developing with Desmond Ritter. And that's where things are going south.
Ghost Peppers agrees with me that this issue with the quarterbacks should have been nipped in the butt a long time ago. That falls squarely on Arthur Smith. And, I want to point out one other criticism of Arthur Smith. We criticize coaches all the time on here for being too cute.
Yes.
Jonnu Smith.
Oh, God.
Pass attempt to McCole Pruitt is being way too cute. You have Kyle Pitts on your roster that doesn't get enough targets, doesn't get enough involvement in this offense.
No.
Everyone is calling for you to use him, and you use 2 different tight ends on the same play,
right.
One as a pass catcher, one as a passer, and neither one is named Kyle Pitts.
Nope.
I don't even have a huge issue with the tight end to tight end pass. Okay. Don't love it, but all right. But neither one was Kyle Pitts.
Nope. Sure wasn't. That was just, oh, God, was that an awful play? Oh, that was a terrible play. I don't know. Has Jonnu Smith ever thrown a pass in a game before?
That's a good question. I could quickly look that up, but I don't know.
Marcel, trying to be smarter than the room. And that's something I bring up constantly. When a coach tries to be smarter than the room, all right, and instead of playing football, sometimes football is not that complicated. Yeah, misdirection plays and, some creative pass routes, you can do a lot of fun stuff like that, but don't get too cute. Don't start thinking that you're the man and you can get away with this just because you're Arthur Smith. So that just was terrible. He was getting too cute. Play football. And one of the other problems I have with Arthur Smith, if you want to come up with it, which is another thing I found doing my research this week. Last year, Atlanta had 415 pass attempts, 43% of their plays, 57% running plays.
Right.
And we know why, because
I believe that was second most in the league, right? Or was that that was most in the league?
Now they passed 52% of the time this season, 48% of the time they run. However, Tyler Algier has run the ball 104 times. Bijan Robinson has run the ball 92 times. All right, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Algier is averaging 3.2 yards per carry. Robinson's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. This is a problem. This is directly at Arthur Smith and his play calling.
Yeah.
You drafted this guy 8th.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you can say that about Pitts. You can say that about London. Just their whole roster building concept is not on the same page as the play caller.
Yes.
And the play caller wants to use these second and third tight ends in the red zone, but not Kyle Pitts.
Right.
Then why are you drafting these unworldly athletes that are supposed to give you this amazing passing offense or non-positional offense with Bijan Robinson, and you're not using them?
Right.
You're not using them.
Exactly. You got it. That's it right there. Why are you doing this?
Yeah. And you can blame Ritter to a certain extent that why these guys aren't being used.
I don't blame Ritter. I don't blame Ritter for the fact that he's not handing off to Bijan instead of Tyler.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, you can't blame Ritter for that at all. For the fact that Algier has more carries than.
And I know Smith had Jonnu Smith and Michael Pruitt in Tennessee. He's familiar with them.
Yeah.
However, you got a guy you drafted early that's supposed to be a world-class tight end.
He should be familiar with Kyle Pitts at this point. It's his third season.
You really should.
Yeah, let's get to some more comments. We've got some good ones coming in. Jay Black says hello. He says, I believe the fact that our run game is not effective on first and second downs has stiffened our offense and Ritter's development as a quarterback. And that's kind of what Tom's pointing to, why maybe your running game's not working as well as you're not giving it to the right guy. So,
how many times does Bijan Robinson get taken down on first contact? Rarely.
Yeah.
Not much, which is why he's averaging 5.1 yards per carry. And you've got to keep feeding him the ball because he's going to break a couple. This is the thing where you've got to have faith in your running game. You can't overuse your running game, but you got to have faith in it. You can't keep, but he's having faith in the wrong guy.
Right. Yeah.
Because Bijan Robinson has breakaway speed. If he can break into the second level, now you got a problem. So, that's where it just puzzles me why, Smith is not giving the ball to Robinson more. Is not feeding him more. He's your playmaker. Algier is your short yardage guy. He's the guy who's going to bowl his way for 3 or 4 yards. Bijan Robinson's your playmaker. This is the guy. And if you're going to run him on routes, if you're going to run him out in the slot, actually run him on a route. Don't just have him there as the check down. Run him downfield. If this positionless offense.
Right.
If you're going to line Robinson up in the slot, run him downfield. Or else you're not fooling anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's Marcel made a great point in his comment here with Jonnu lining up in the backfield. That Jonnu Smith on his pass attempt, which I double checked, Tom, was his first pass attempt in his career.
Okay.
He's lined up in the backfield by himself, not as a fullback, nobody else in the backfield behind Ritter, just Jonnu Smith. He gets the handoff. So it's kind of obvious that it was obvious, according to Smith, that it's going to be a pass. He's not going to run it. And the Titans knew that. The Titans were back in coverage. Yes. Nobody was open. It was a failed play from the start. Right. They recognized it immediately.
because Jonnu Smith has the ball in his hands, and you can stay in coverage. All right, you know that, and he's running laterally. He's running east-west, so he's looking for a receiver, and you just stay in coverage and you cover your man, and it's going to blow up the play.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Jonnu Smith had one rushing attempt last season, didn't have any before, or still doesn't have any, I should say, this season. So, I mean, you immediately, if you're the Titans defense, you see that Jonnu Smith's never been in the backfield more than likely this season.
Right.
Didn't see that on tape, and he's back there now. You know something is up. You know something is odd. The most rushing attempts he's had in a season is 9.
Yeah. And I've said this repeatedly. Defensive coordinators are not stupid. They will figure you out. Give them enough game film, they'll figure you out. All right? They don't see Jonnu Smith in the backfield, and now they see Jonnu Smith in the backfield. Yeah, they know what's happening. You're not going to fool them.
Right. And now
Arthur Smith, you are not fooling anybody.
Yeah. And again, not to mention that stop designing plays for Jonnu Smith. Design plays for Kyle Pitts, for goodness sakes. Let's get to more of our comments. Stephen B. First-time commenter? I don't remember Stephen B.
So.
I think if it's the first time, I apologize if I don't remember a comment before, but Stephen B., thanks for being here. Robinson being so fresh would be great if the team was better. Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome if you had a fresh Bijan Robinson in December and you were, 9-3 or whatever.
Right.
And you're doing well with Tyler Algier. I think in a perfect world, you give Bijan the ball early in the game, and then you wear him out with the power back later in the game.
Yeah.
Seems like maybe he's trying to do the opposite and then not running it enough with Bijan Robinson in the fourth quarter because they're behind a lot in the fourth quarter. I don't know exactly what the
I don't know. All I know is you got to get Bijan the ball a lot more than what he's getting. You cannot keep having this. This just doesn't work.
I want to read a couple more comments, then we need to move on to our picks. Smart Ride says, we keep giving this coach the benefit of the doubt because his coaching and playing ability, he's showing the signs of someone reaching and is over his head. Nah, I mean, that's interesting, Smart Ride.
That's a good observation because he might be. He very well might be. The way he acts during a game, the way he acts post-game, he very well may be over his head. This may be too much for him.
Jay Black has a question for us, but Jay Black, I'm going to table that until next week. We'll try and answer that question for you on our next show. Tom, but he does also say, Tom, that is why I'm worried about the decision to switch from Ritter to Heineke. They get enough film on number 4, then the O starts to falter again.
Yeah. And that's what happened to Heineke in Washington. That's why Heineke has had 2 terrible Decembers in Washington.
Yeah.
Because he wins a few games, coaches get film on him, and that's it. Now he's going to win a few games here in Atlanta because he's in a different offense. Coaches are going to get film on him, and it's going to be a problem. Because, and this is a pet peeve of mine too. I think teams should be scouting themselves as hard as they scout their opponents. There should be a staff of scouts scouting your team every week to check tendencies, to check to see what you're missing. It drives me nuts that teams don't scout themselves enough.
Yeah.
That they get into habits that they don't know. You don't realize that they are in those habits.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I hate to bring this up because it's an old example, but it stayed with me. When the Bears faced the Patriots in Super Bowl 20, the week before they went to New Orleans to play that game, so out of the way. I know you want to stretch, but out of the way. What Ditka had his staff do, they scouted themselves. They took game tape of their entire season, scouted themselves, then went out on the field in Super Bowl 20 and broke every tendency that they had developed during the season. It's amazing how that can work for you. And I don't know if some teams think, well, we don't get into tendencies, we're too smart for that.
Well, I think there's an arrogance of it doesn't matter what our tendencies are. We're so good at them, they're not going to stop us.
They're not going to stop us. Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes if things aren't working, you might want to look at breaking a few of those tendencies.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It's arrogant. And some of it is, just macho. Hey, we are going to shove that ball down your throat and there's nothing you can do about it. And, I get that, but sometimes you got to be smart about that too. And it's a fine line. I know I seem like I'm talking on both sides here. It's a fine line.
Yeah, because you could argue Jonnu Smith lining up in the backfield is breaking a tendency. They hadn't done that before.
But it's a terrible way to break the tendency because.
Yeah. When you have a trick play, you don't want to give it away before it starts, is what I would say. And that gave away that there was a trick play coming.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
Right.
You set that up by having Jonnu Smith in the backfield in week 8.
Yeah.
And doing something else. And then in week 9, you line them up in the backfield again. Then you call that.
Then you call the pass.
Yeah.
Now now you have a chance. And coaches do this all the time. They go to a play early in the game, and I forget the exact game, but somebody did this earlier last week. They ran a play, did not give the ball to the wide receiver sweeping around, and ran a straight play, ran that same play later, gave the ball to that receiver, and gained yards. It was turned into a big play.
Right.
Because you showed it, but you're doing something different off of it.
Right.
Who did Philadelphia? Who did the variation? Yeah, it was the Eagles. Did the variation off the brotherly shove, where instead of doing the shove, Hurts comes back and flips the ball, and they get the touchdown around end.
Yeah, that's classic way to break a tendency.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you break tendencies.
Yeah.
And the brotherly shove 99% of the time is going to work unless Hurts drops football. But, because now all of a sudden teams have to think about that. They can't line up with everybody around the center trying to jam that interior lineup because now all of a sudden Hurts stepped back and pitched. And now you got to start looking for that every game.
Right. Yeah, and it makes stopping the tush push even harder.
Yes, it does.
Because they could pitch it and run for a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but that's not getting cute. That's being smart. Arthur Smith tries to get cute and tries to think that he's smarter than the room. Arthur, you are not smarter than the room. There are hundreds of head coaches who came before you. There will be hundreds of head coaches who come after you. It's sometimes it's just called football. Give it to your playmakers. You got 3 highly drafted playmakers on your offense. Get them involved, especially in the goal line. If you want to pitch it to Robinson and have Robinson try a halfback option.
Sure.
All right. Now I'm on board with that. I can see that. Because you're going to be bringing up the safety. All of a sudden you're bringing the safeties up because they think they might be getting an end around. Robinson trying to go around.
And not to mention Robinson, it's not unusual, of course. He's always in the backfield. It's not you don't automatically trip the defense of something weird's going on because Robinson is in the backfield all the time.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden, if he flips the ball, to tight end or go receiver in the end zone, now you've done something smart. You've done something that not only have you scored a touchdown in that play, you've given teams something that they have to scout and prepare for down the line.
Right. That's true.
They're not going to scout and prepare for Jonnu Smith in the backfield down the line. You've given them nothing new to look at. You do that with Bijan Robinson. Now all of a sudden, teams got to take that into account. Well, what if Bijan does, but if we bring up our guys to try and stop Bijan, does he flip the ball? If we don't bring up our defense, is Bijan going to break the first tackle and get into the end zone?
Yeah.
That now you've given defenses something to think about.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. They get you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. And we have some Prize Picks selections for you. You want to get to those right now, and then we'll do your picks against the spread?
Sure. Let's do it. By the way, all 3 of my Prize Picks came in last week. All 3 of my picks against the spread came in last week.
Oh, it was a good week.
Yeah. So if you took my recommendations last week, hello.
So does that mean you're going to fall back to the mean this week and not have such a good week? Or are we right?
No, actually going back to the mean means that I hit a few because I haven't been good this year.
Oh, okay. So we're riding the hot streak.
Yeah, we're riding a hot streak.
Well, then let's do it. Well, we teased the New Orleans Saints against the Chicago Bears. Do you have Derek Carr in your Prize Pick selections like I do?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. So who's your Saint?
I have Rashid Shaheed plus 2.5 receptions.
Okay.
Carr has really enjoyed throwing the ball to Shaheed. And Shaheed has become a great downfield target for Carr. And those Carr has gotten better since Alvin Kamara has been running hard again. That's really made that offense start to spring wide. Plus, they got Thomas, they got Shaheed, and they got Olave. They got 3 incredibly good receivers. But I think Rashid has been above 2.5 receptions, I think, in all but one game this year. And Carr likes to look for him, especially downfield. I think he gets over 2.5 receptions.
Well, staying in the same game, I have Derek Carr over 254.5 passing yards. He's been over 300 passing yards time each of the last 3 weeks. You talk about him performing better since Kamara has been running well. So that's yielded a bunch of passing yards. And they're going up against the Bears defense. It's 31st in passing.
Which yields a lot of passing yards.
Yeah.
Where were the Bears last? The Bears didn't even know that there was a game going on last Sunday night. And did somebody tell them that this was an actual game? This wasn't a scrimmage. This was an actual game.
Someone told them that I picked the Chargers in the Eliminator, so they just decided to lay down.
Oh, my second one. Receiver Tyreek Hill, anytime touchdown. He has scored touchdowns in 7 of 8 games this season. And Tyreek Hill is having a just monster season.
He is.
Just incredible.
Thank you to my friends who let me draft him and Christian McCaffrey. I am undefeated in that league, and pretty easy to see why.
I'm sure, yes, exactly. Tua and Tyreek are just incredible together, love each other. Well, Tyreek and Waddle are just an incredible receiving duel. And I do love that Waddle touchdown celebration. So Waddle.
Right.
I'm all on board for that. Yep. So
I have Tyreek Hill as well, over 93.5 receiving yards.
Okay, I like that.
He's done that 3 of the last 4 weeks. He leads the league in receiving yards. I think he's going to get 2,000 receiving yards this season. And I don't think he's going to need the 17th game to do it. He's going to do it in 16 weeks.
He might, because he has just been out of this world this season. Just incredible. So you just gotta hand it to him. And so I say anytime touchdown for Tyreek Hill. I am going for I'm digging deep for a receiver this week with the Chiefs. Receiver Justin Watson. He has been Pat Mahomes' downfield target. He has crushed 17.5 receiving yards in 5 of 7 games. And one of those games, he hurt himself. So he didn't get it. So averages 37.3 yards per game, 21.8 yards per reception. And Prize Picks has him at over under 17.5 yards.
Wow.
So
yeah, I think that's a good one.
Take him.
So. I got is that the end of yours?
Yeah.
I got 2 more.
Okay.
And actually a third one that you can't do them together though, because they're both Saquon Barkley. I've got Saquon Barkley over 76.5 rushing yards. They're going up against the Raiders defense that's 31st against the run. Barkley's had over 76 rushing yards in 3 straight weeks. Last week he had 128 on 36 attempts, Tom. 36 carries for Barkley last week in the overtime matchup. No, I know it was overtime, but still, that's a ton of rushing attempts. So if you don't trust the yardage total for Barkley, do Barkley 18.5 rushing attempts.
But they have a third string quarterback in there too.
Yeah, and they had Barkley's had he's had at least 19. Actually, I think it's more than 20. He's had more than 20 rushing attempts 3 weeks in a row. So that 18.5 rushing attempts is kind of low. I think he'll go over that for sure.
I like Saquon Barkley. I like that pick.
And I got another one with rushing attempts. Quarterback Lamar Jackson. He's set at 8.5 rushing attempts. He's been over that 5 times this season. And 2 of the last 3 weeks, he's had at least 9 rushing attempts. So I think he'll go over that against Seattle. Last week, he was not over 8.5 rushing attempts, Tom. I think it was because they were going against the Cardinals, a team they thought they could handle without their quarterback needing to take unnecessary hits. This week, even though they're back at home, they're playing the Seahawks. I think it's going to be a really close, great game. And Lamar is going to have to do some things with his legs. So he'll go over the 8.5 rushing attempts.
Yeah, I like it. I think you're right. That offense works better when Lamar's doing some running, and I think he will have to against Seattle because you're right. That's going to be a tough game.
Yeah,
that is going to be a good game. So
what do you got against the spread?
What do I have against the spread? Let me call it up here. I have the Rams getting 3 points against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. Green Bay is slowly falling apart. Everybody talks about Desmond Ritter. Jordan Love has not been he's slowly starting to kind of revert to the mean, showing that there's not much there. There's no there.
I guess Love was part of the 2020 class, right? He was with Herbert and Tua and Burrow.
Yeah.
So yeah. I was about to say that these young quarterbacks really aren't living up to the hype. Now, Love is with that class, and the other 3 are. The other 3 have been great. But 2021, 2022 class, very underwhelming. And this year haven't had, it has the young quarterbacks are not doing great.
Not yet. Now. Except for C.J. Stroud. Stroud's playing very well.
C.J. Stroud's doing well. Yeah. I knew there would be somebody I forgot. C.J. Stroud's doing well. And, I mean, I guess the guy that we're not going to have time to talk about today, but he just played the Falcons and looked good. Just played the Steelers and lost, but looks pretty good. Is Will Levis. So, I mean, I want to see more from him. I think it was.
Well, I think you're going to because I think he's going to start. I think he's essentially, even if Tannehill's healthy, I think Levis starts.
I think he should to see what he
right.
I think he's done enough that you believe that he probably is your franchise quarterback, but before I'm ready to say that, I want to see more from him. But no reason to go back to Tannehill. You want to
Tannehill's gone after this season.
Yeah.
So see what you got in Levis because Tannehill is gone.
You're 3-5 too, so you're not really pushing for a playoff spot at this point where you would want to start a veteran, start the rookie.
Yeah, 3-5. You're in the AFC South, where Jacksonville's just running away with it now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But anyway, back to Jordan Love. Yeah, he was a guy along with Desmond. I probably wouldn't put Desmond Ritter in that category. I put Kenny Pickett in it. Nationally, I don't think people thought much of Ritter before the season, but they did of Love, and he's not living up to what people thought he could be.
Well, Ritter was projected as a late first, early second round draft choice that year.
I'm talking about going into this season, though.
Going into the season, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we got all kinds of projections in Ritter's class. I mean, some people thought Ritter should go 1. People thought Malik Willis was going to be the next Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
So, I mean,
they sure did.
And as much as you want to compliment the Titans for getting Will Levis, if that works out, they had to fail with the Malik Willis pick first. So,
Marcel, you hit it right on the head. As long as Hopkins is allowed to OPI, he'll be okay. Yeah, man, did he take AJ? He put AJ Terrell in a headlock and spun him around. That was just insane. I couldn't believe he got away with that.
I can't believe that got called. That did not get called. Yeah, and he didn't. I guess he didn't try it again against Joey Porter Jr. Thursday. And Joey Porter Jr., when they finally realized, hey, let's not cover Hopkins with Cole Holcomb, who suffered a season-ending knee injury trying to cover DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
They put Joey Porter on him and finally trusted the rookie, and it worked out well. Hopkins didn't do anything after that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my second pick, again, Rams +3 at Packers. Even if Stafford is limited because of the injured finger, I still think, they play well enough to win that game. Texans -3 at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like C.J. Stroud to make a comeback this week. Got beat up a little bit last week against the Panthers. Man, he looked bad against the Panthers. Bryce Young actually looked pretty good against Houston. And really surprised me because Houston has a good defense. So, but I think the Buccaneers are awful. All right, they're terrible. This is a bad Buccaneers team. Todd Bowles is going to get fired at the end of the season. And they're going to be starting all over again. Baker Mayfield is back to being Baker Mayfield. Had a hot start.
Yeah.
Had me thinking, well, he's got a couple of great receivers there. But no, he's back to being Baker Mayfield. Texans -3 at Buccaneers. Saints -8.5 against the Bears. I have no faith in the Bears this weekend.
Wow.
Saints, while the Saints have struggled on offense at times this year, they have a defense that is tough. All right, the Saints play tough defense. Tyson Bagent's going to have his hands full. Apparently Justin Fields is actually healthy, but he's not going to start this week. So Tyson Bagent's going to have his handful. I think the Saints -8.5 is where you want to be.
I don't have any picks against the spread that I feel good about, Tom, but I have the Browns as my eliminator pick.
Bald-head Falcons fan just came in with breaking news.
Really?
Bears just extended Montez Sweat for 4 years, $98 million with $72.8 guaranteed. All right, there we go. Ryan Poles doesn't look as big of a fool. Maybe they did have the framework in place. So, maybe they did have that deal framework in place and just needed the trade to finish it off. So, yay for the Bears.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Just verified it. Ian Rappaport tweeted it 3 minutes ago. Sweat, 4-year extension, and the figures that Baldhead Falcons fan listed for us. The total deal worth is $105 million.
Yep. Wow.
So sorry, Falcons fans. Montez Sweat will not be coming.
Montez Sweat will not be going to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Boy, could they have used them. But man, if they had gotten him this year, and that, especially with Grady Jarrett hurt, man, that still would have maintained a strong pass rush.
Yeah.
What would have strengthened their pass rush? because while they get a lot of pressure, they're not getting to the quarterback. Montez Sweat would have got him to the quarterback.
Reaction from Nathan Floyd.
Yeah.
And Smart Ride, that was kind of the question I was going to ask. Well, his isn't a question. He says the Falcons should have given the second round pick. Smart Ride, from what I read, they were willing to give up the second round pick. That was not enough. They needed to give up either a first round pick or something in addition to that second round pick.
The problem is they expected the Bears' second round pick to be a better pick than the Falcons' second round pick.
Washington expected that.
Yes, Washington expected the Bears' pick to be better than what the Falcons' pick was going to end up being. That's why they took the Bears' offer. And
from the Falcons' perspective, you needed to up that offer to more than a second round pick, is what I'm saying. And we can debate that next. We can debate it next week. We're out of time, but should they have offered more for Sweat than a second round pick? Because now he will not be available. They'll have to look elsewhere for pass rushing help next offseason.
Yep, sure will.
But to conclude today's show, as I was saying, the Browns are my lock of the week. Trying not to overthink the Cardinals quarterback situation. We don't know yet. Do you have any more breaking news for us, Baldhead Falcons fan? I don't think when we went on air, there was no starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals yet. So if Kyler Murray plays, I'm a little less confident. However, I think that's overthinking it if I don't go with the Browns. I think regardless of who plays for the Cardinals.
From what I understand, Kyler Murray's not playing.
They want to lose, right?
Probably next week, but not this week.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Kyler Murray is going off the market. The Cardinals need Kyler Murray because the Josh Dobbs experiment did not work out.
Well, and they got trade value for him, though. It worked out to a certain extent.
They did.
To a quarterback needy team. And who knows? I mean, Jaron Reed is starting this week for the Vikings. We didn't talk all that much about the Falcons' opponent today, other than their high blitz percentage. Didn't talk at all about their quarterback situation. Kirk Cousins not going to play, obviously. Could the Falcons see Josh Dobbs in this game?
I think it's possible. I think anything's possible right now.
Yeah. Baldhead Falcons fan says Clayton Tune is starting. Is he 2 for 2 with his breaking news on our show?
Yes, 2 for 2. Definitely. So Clayton Tune starting for the Cardinals.
I'm just going to verify this. It's expected to start. Yeah, he's expected to start. The headlines that I'm reading up from ESPN in the last couple hours.
Okay.
So that's our show today. Thanks for sticking around for more than an hour. We enjoy doing it for everybody. And I don't believe we'll have a show next week. We didn't get to talk about this beforehand, Tom, but both of us have scheduling conflicts. So I don't believe we will have a show next Saturday. So I just wanted to let everybody know. So you're not trying to log into your accounts and say, where's Dave and Tom? We're not probably more than likely.
Well, Tom's stepdaughter is getting married next week, so Tom's not going to have time to put a show together.
Tom will definitely not be here. More than likely, I will not either. So we will see you 2 weeks from today with our next show.
Yeah. So again, appreciate all of you staying here, all of you spending the hour with us, and we will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a great week, everyone.